And now we go live to Fratton Park, where there's been a red card. But for who, Chris Kamara? And the answer is, surprisingly, Sophie Corcoran, the journalist of Talk TV and GB News fame, shot into prominence through spouting misinformed gibberish on these paid-for propaganda channels. And she's been cancelled. Not by the woke mob, not by leftists, not even by political correctness gone mad. She's been cancelled by the Conservative Party. She has put out a statement on Twitter that I've not even watched yet. This is my first time reaction to it, saying I've been bullied out of the Conservative Party. A statement, so let's watch it.
This is not really a video that I wanted to make, but I've tried to deal with it privately. But I've effectively been bullied out of the Conservative Party for months and months on end. A YC affiliated group have been bullying me relentlessly on official group chats, often saying, you know, I look like I've been Chinese burns, consistently slagging off the way I look and making jokes about the way I look, where I'm from, the fact I've worked in KFC.
So, like, just straight off the bat here, Sophie, what did you expect, right? Like, I understand that she's not the sharpest tool in the shed. I've mocked her on this channel before, and I'm not going to mock her again right now, considering the subject matter of what's happened here. But you've got to imagine what the fuck else she thought she thought would happen, right? Like you have to you have to be absolutely blind to have a look at your 100 years of Conservative Party dogma and what they say about working class people and about women and that and they've always been pretty misogynistic as well as being classist. Like Boris Johnson was the one saying that working class in this country are completely fucking feckless or whatever. And you have to imagine like how far you have to be down like the fucking brain poison rabbit hole to have a look what they've been as an entity for so long, and then to expect them not to do it to you, right? Just because you toe the party line, as she has done for months, right? Using the clout of putting out conservative rhetoric day after day after day after day, and then suddenly acting surprised when that same rhetoric turns against you. It's incredible. I could rag on her for the hypocrisy of the fact that she uses her own platform to bully people, whether it be migrants, whether it be people that she considers woke, whether it would be transgender people. Right, I'm a trans person. The platform that she uses to spout bigoted hatred against people from my background, right? And that's part of the whole conservative ideology, really, right? Finding scapegoats to deal with class antagonism, and also to demonise working class people and make it feel like the situation they're in is their fault, right? And after all of that, she then goes up to the Conservative Party and then expects them not to do the same to her. Like, I understand that leopards eating people's faces party stuff is a bit old hat right now, it's a bit overdone. But come on, I'm sorry, Sophie, what else did you expect?
And just genuinely consistently harassing me in that group chat, and some of those individuals have also made it impossible for me to go and join the Conservative Association in Durham because of their like obsessive bullying. Like, it's bullying at this point. After months and months I reached the end of my tether, as it was seriously impacting me mentally and making me want to leave politics. So I went to the party for support, and they decided that they're going to do nothing except revoke my conference pass, and punish me instead of the people who they should be punishing.
Which is an excellent metaphor for the kind of every single part of Tory ideology, right? Of conservative ideology, of this the neoliberal rugged individualism, right? All that bullshit, right? Pull yourself up by a bootstraps. That's the same mentality that she's been pushing out as with her journalistic output, and suddenly the turns have tabled, and like I shouldn't, feel any sympathy. I really shouldn't, right? Considering the bed that she's made, and she's now crying about having to lie in that same bed. But I am going to feel sympathy. We've all essentially had to deal with essentially Tory propagandizing from every media network outlet, and so much so I'm not surprised that there are self-hating working class people like Sophie, who are happy to shit on the people from their own backgrounds to be able to get a leg up. Because at the end of the day, we all want to escape the rat race. We all hate living under capitalism. It's all fucking miserable. So using by internalizing the narratives that get pumped out by these shit news channels and then using that as a springboard to be able to get a cushy career in journalism. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Right? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who purport to be Marxists who are going to be ragging on her for all of this shit and laughing at how miserable she is, and her crying for what is essentially misogynistic bullying, right? Like, we understand that people are shaped by their material conditions. We understand that people are products of their environment, and the kind of shit that she spouts, it's not new. Right, it's happened before. It's been forever present in British media programming, right? To manufacture the consent of people from her backgrounds, such as herself, right? So at the end of the day, right, saying, "Oh well, you've been a bully, so it means it's okay that you've been bullied." No, I don't buy that shit. I don't buy any of that. But hopefully, this will give her, cause for some introspection, right? Let's hope, that she understands the kind of position that she's been put in and why this shit happens. That would be the ideal outcome. Will it happen? Probably not. Probably still be getting her cushy talking gigs over at Talk TV and GB News. So I don't hold high hopes, but that's the kind of teaching point that we need to get out of this shit, right?
They're too cowardly to deal with bullying. I provided literally loads of screenshots, and I had many witnesses of outright clear bullying. Like, this is clear as day. So now I have no choice but to leave the party that I've been a member of since I was 16, as I've been punished for trying to get support against bullying. They pretended and they waxed lyrical about wanting more working class people out and more women in politics, but they don't care about the fact that one of their most notable
Well, they've never cared about having working class people as part of their policy platform. They've never cared about having working class people having their actual material needs met, because that's not what's in their interest. Their donors are all fucking billionaires. They don't survive off of membership payments like plenty of other political parties do. They survive off of doing the whims of the richest people in the fucking country, right? They've always been misogynistic. They've always hated working class people. That's the reason why, right? The reason why that you're allowed to go on Talk TV, Sophie, the reason why you're allowed to go on GB News and talk shit about migrants arriving in boats or talk shit about trans people, is because they're an effective scapegoat for the failure of Conservative Party policy and the rest of the economy, right? They've been using you, right? You've been an ideal pawn in their ability to try and get working class people to hate each other rather than hate the people who actually cause the issues for working class people in this country, which is, of course, the mega rich, the bourgeois, etc., etc., right? And you've been played. I'm sorry, like, you've just been played, and you've always been a pawn. You've always been used for political purposes rather than someone who they genuinely care about the interests of. And I hope you understand that now. Why should they care about you being bullied when you're not their paymasters? You're not somebody whose interests they're supposed to represent at the end of the day.
Let's be honest, who is a working class woman who's been bullied out of the party and out of politics altogether.
Now, they don't want working class people in politics. Like, how many working class Tory MPs do you know? Fucking none of them, right? I mean, they're not working. I mean, they're fucking MP. They're not working class anyway. You can't you'd be a working class MP. But like, from the background that they're from, there's very fucking few of them, right? I'm sorry. Like, I can't believe that it's just taken this long for the penny to drop for her. After apparently this bullying's been going on for a long time. Did you not think that might have come from somewhere? Do you think that not might be somehow indicative of certain internal biases that these people have? Again, it's this neoliberal brain rot where you only blame people for the actions that they do rather than what particular structure might be driving those actions in the first place. Right? She's even responded to this own video with a couple of tweets too, saying things like, "This is nothing to do with the political views of anything that has purely to do with where I'm from, the way that I look. They've made horrendous rumours about me, etc., etc. The party should be sorting this." But it may not be to do with your political views, Sophie, but it's certainly to do with their political views, right? It's certainly to do with the view that they have of how their ideology informs their biases of people based upon their background, based upon their gender, based upon, plenty of other different minority characteristics they may be a part of. This idea, right? This idea that, conservatives just simply believe in meritocracy and simply believe in, equality of opportunity. That's just never been the case. It's never ever been the case. Why should they have to care about this shit? Like, it's the idea that they ever had your interests at heart, Sophie. You've just been played, right? It reminds me of what it reminds me of. It reminds me of Blair White, right? For those who don't know, Blair White is a prominent conservative trans woman who uses her platform explicitly, right, to mock trans people, to belittle other trans people, to, essentially court an audience of people who hate transgender people, right? Because if you have an innate hatred of working class people, or of hatred of women, or hatred of trans people, for these two sets of people, the first person that you're going to find is someone from that minority who agrees with you. So much so that, in Blair White's case, her audience is full of conservative people who hate trans people and want any amount of validation from someone within that community to then go and hate that community back and say, well, this thing agrees with me that all trans people are fucking mentally ill perverts, right? So, and if she's also one of the, she's also a tranny, so that must mean that she's right if she agrees with this. And that's what they do. That's what they've done with you, Sophie. They're like, well, how can we hate working class people despite all of the policy that we enact and all the rhetoric that we espouse when we've got working class people on our side who's spouting all the same lines that we do, right? That's why. That's why they've chewed you up and spat you out like this. As soon as you've stopped being useful to them from a political angle, right? As soon as you stop being useful, like, you're just going to be the last person, to be sent to the workhouse at the end of the day. At the end of the day, right? Once you stop being a useful mouthpiece for their ideology, why should they have to care? Why should they have to care about you being bullied for characteristics that you've not chosen that run counter to conservative ideology in the first place, Sophie? Like, if you want some proof in the way that she's been propagandized, let's just have a look at some of the things that that made her famous in the first place, right? Like, I think this one's pretty famous now, where she talked about how that she thinks there shouldn't be an extensive welfare state, and that job seekers allowance should be completely removed, because jobs like KFC are always there. Apparently, you can always just get a job, despite the unemployment being necessary under capitalism. Because again, why would she have ever done any amount of material analysis of things like this? And then, weeks later saying that she can't even get a job in KFC up in Durham because she doesn't have enough experience. Like, the own job that she says should be available to everyone turns out wasn't available to her, and she's still not done the introspection because she's been so ideologically captured about it. Like, I can't, I just, again, I really shouldn't have sympathy. I really shouldn't just have sympathy for this, but like, this is how people get propagandized. As I said before, it's divide and conquer. Turn working class people against each other. Make them think against their own interests to try and then buy into your ideology. Like, I've seen like the election statistics. The idea that there's this huge swathe of working class conservative voters, that's not really true, but there's definitely more than there previously has been. But why do you think the attack lines like the war on woke exist? Try and get people to stop thinking along class lines and start, speaking ideologically about these things rather than actually, analysing what's going to materially benefit them in the long run. Which clearly, you look at that KFC comment, and she doesn't, and like, even after it being an issue specifically for her, she just had no opportunity to do any introspection, which I really hope will happen now, considering what's happened to her as a member of a Conservative Party. And again, we've seen these people. We've seen these people at the hustings. We saw the people in the fucking Joe Politics video we watched about the Conservative leadership election. These aren't normal people. These aren't everyday fucking salt of the earth people who are voting in the Conservative leadership election. Members of the Conservative Party, they're all fucking toffs. They're all fucking posh people. They're fucking middle class pieces of shit. You've never cared about anything other than ensuring that their house price increases and ensuring that their tax money isn't spent on people that they view as lesser and undeserving. And it just shows that people like Sophie doesn't even have to be from the same in the current same socioeconomic circumstances as Sophie, but anyone from her background who looks like her, who sounds like her, they hate them, they despise them, right? Runs along this. This is like the lifeblood that runs through the Conservative Party in general. Like, I'm sorry, that's just the case. I hope people like Terence over here, he understands exactly what's happened. Sophie Corcoran has 130,000 followers. She speaks the language of ordinary Conservative voters. I mean, what ordinary Conservative voters? She's a propagandist, right? Whether willingly or not, whether knowingly or not, she is just a propagandist against her own interest. There are no ordinary Conservative voters. I mean, I said there's not as many as people seem to claim that there are, but any ordinary Conservative voters that she does represent just come down from the same pipeline of people who've been taught self-hatred of working class people in their own backgrounds, rather than taught class emancipation at the end of the day. And I hope Terence will see that the modus operandi of the Conservative Party is doing what they've done to Sophie, right? Like, maybe a little bit of introspection is warranted here. Although I do find it interesting, given how people like Sophie tend to decry identity politics, that's been long been some kind of ideological position of the right wing to use identity politics as some kind of smear against talking about political policy from a demographic standpoint, right? Then saying, well, I've been bullied for being young female, being working class, right? Is that not identity politics, Sophie? Like, I agree. It is misogynistic bullying. You are being bullied for being you. It's classist as well. It's both classist and misogynistic, right? In the way that they've bullied you. Do you not think then that that could be extrapolated? I don't know, throughout society in some kind of structural manner. Do you think this just happens in a vacuum? They've just been doing this, randomly to you, and that's just happened out of nowhere. Or do you not think that it could represent a wider trend in conservative ideology and conservative thought, in general ways in which that this would manifest across huge swathes of ideologically right-wing people across the spectrum, where they think that this kind of stuff is okay, right? I think this last tweet fully encapsulates just how much she just doesn't realise the situation that she's got herself in. Where she's tweeted out saying that she thinks a lot of people forget that she's just a normal uni student who like lots of other uni students, has a passion for and likes to talk about politics. I'm like, are you really just a normal uni student? Do other uni students get a huge parapet to spout their political views from GB News, Jeremy Vine, GMB, GB News, Sky News Australia, right? All of these, incredibly right-wing, ideologically motivated platforms. Do you not think that you're being given a specific platform because you are happy to parrot an ideological line, and that they can use you as a pawn in an ideological game? Do you not think that might be the case? Does that maybe different from a lot of other university students in the way in which that your platform has influenced the things that you'll say and the views that you have? Like, it's not happened out of nowhere. You don't generate your ideology in a vacuum. It's influenced by all of the different environmental factors and all the different things that you're exposed to when you're growing up during your formative years and when you're developing your own kind of political landscape, right? Like, that's at the end of the day. At the end of the day, I think to wrap this segment up, because it's been fucking long and rambly, and I'll probably have to edit loads of bits of this together at the end. But like, at the end of the day, really, Sophie, why? Why would it have got to this? What has motivated people to say the things that they've said about you? And what does it say about the way in which that you've done that to other people, and how that makes you feel, how that might make other people feel, right? And the hatred, at the end of the day, begets hatred, right? And the bullying, right? The smears, the lies, the nasty things that you've said about other minorities could so easily be turned on you. And at the end of the day, what we really want to be doing is building a politics which is more inclusive, which is going to bring people together, no matter what background or demographic that they're from, to make life better on a utilitarian basis, right? Might be worth a thought, Sophie.